Here's what we'll be covering today. President Trump just gave Secretary of State Marco Rubio an order that has MAGA cheering. He's moving to shut down immigrant visa processing for 75 countries whose nationalists are likely to end up on American welfare. Tighten public charge rules so people don't end up on welfare, abusing taxpayer money, or the ability to lie in order to get a green card. At the same time, HUD Secretary Scott Turner says Biden's White House let more than $84 million in ineligible housing assistance pour into Minnesota, including payments to over 500 dead people. He's now promising to claw back that money and stop the ghost checks. Tonight, I'll also break down Trump and Rubio's new America First move, the Biden fraud disaster, and War Secretary Pete Hegseth's claim that the cartel boat war is working so well, narco smugglers are no longer on the open ocean. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate each and every one of you. Let's go into the news. We are learning about more fraud to eligible, ineligible, illegal, and dead people. HUD Secretary Scott Turner says the Biden White House turned Minnesota's housing program into a giant leak of your money, sending $84 million of ineligible assistance, including $500,000 paid to 500 dead people. In other words, $84 million of hard work and taxpayer money was shelled out during the Biden administration to people who didn't qualify and in some cases weren't even alive. For Trump's America First crowd, this fits the larger pattern. DC throws money at programs with almost no oversight. Connected insiders in places like Minnesota look the other way, and regular Americans pick up the financial tab while families who actually need that help sit on waiting lists. Turner's promise now is to claw that money back, tighten eligibility checkpoints, and make sure HUD dollars go to living Americans who actually need help. Listen to what he had to share on the news earlier today.
We have boots on the ground in Minnesota, and through our fraud prevention, we have found that there is likely over $84 million in ineligible assistance that was given to the state of Minnesota during the Biden administration, including almost $500,000 in improper assistance to over 500 dead tenants. And so you think about that, Tony, over $84 million of hardworking taxpayer money that was shelled out during the Biden administration in improper assistance and serving over 500 dead people with almost $500,000 of assistance. This is a lack of stewardship. It's gross negligence. But I'm grateful at this time that our team on the ground has found these improper payments, and we will hold those accountable that are responsible for this.
Okay, so during the Biden era, if you wanted to live better than most Americans, you just had to illegally cross the border or pretend to be dead, and you would get the financial assistance that you really needed. Now, I might be crazy, but couldn't you just go to the people that got the $84 million and make sure that they're not breaking the law and taking additional money? Or maybe you go to the 500 people that were receiving the dead people's checks and cashing them in the bank and knock on their door and say, you're in big trouble. You stole American money. But I don't know. I'm just a guy on the internet, right? All right. Now, remember about a week ago, I showed you a clip of Steve Bannon on the War Room saying illegals and Democrat leaders are laughing at you while they steal your money and live better than you. It was a hot clip. Well, I believe Steve Bannon, but now I have some evidence of it. Earlier today, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar was seen laughing about the $9 billion in fraud, telling the reporter, you're crazy to actually believe that there's that amount of stolen money. Let me show that to you in the audience.
Congresswoman Omar, yesterday you told me to please read when I asked you about the $9 billion fraud that you denied is happening, but I have it right here. I read. Look, Chairman Comer opens hearing on massive fraud scandal, $9 billion.
That's what Comer believes because he's as smart as you are.
It's not just Comer. It's Scott Besson. It's federal prosecutors. It's House Oversight. And
no
it's Minnesota State Reps.
You can have that, ma'am. I think you need to get examined because your brain has been fried in some way, and it's not okay. I really hope you get some help. You and the Republicans here. Take care, okay, ma'am?
I'm sorry, I couldn't go to the learning centers that you're running over in Minnesota, but I think you should perhaps read what's actually
one of those learning centers.
I need one of those learning centers.
Yes, see it?
All right. See how she's just laughing? You, Trump, James Comer, Secretary Besson, you guys are all crazy. We didn't steal $9 billion. You need to have your head checked. Well, she might be right about one thing. It might actually be more than $9 billion. But Steve Bannon was right. Democrats and these illegals, they're laughing in our faces. Now, President Trump just ordered Marco Rubio to make another America First move, I believe has his voters very happy and is good for America. The Trump administration just took another big America First step by suspending immigrant visa processing from 75 countries whose nationals are deemed most likely to end up on U.S. welfare and public assistance with taxpayer money. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has ordered consulates to pause these green card style visas while the State Department tightens public charges rules to keep out people who come here and immediately start living off of taxpayer money. For everyday Americans, this is about protecting limited resources, reducing abuse in already overwhelmed programs, and signaling that immigration should be built on self-reliance, not lifetime dependency. Yes, this is huge. Why have we been allowing people to come into our country and immediately go on welfare? Now, I don't want to pick on the Somali community. They're already being picked on enough. But after 10 years of being here, over 80% of them are on government assistance. They literally can't live without the American taxpayer. This isn't the way to do it. That's not American values. Now, this move fits squarely into Trump's America First agenda. The idea that citizenship and legal entry are privileges for those who can support themselves, not a global poverty program underwritten and paid for by the American worker. The cable Rubio sent out even tells officers to vet applicants' finances, skills, their health, and their ability to speak or learn English, which lines up with Trump's long-stated goal of shifting towards a merit-based system, not a dependent welfare system. We want you working. We want you smart. We want you skilled. We want you paying taxes. We want you to be America. Democrats, they don't give a damn. They just want you to vote Democrat. Now, top Democrats and immigrant right advocates are furious with President Trump and Marco Rubio. They argue this is a wealth test on poor families from places like Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East, and say Trump and Rubio are turning humanitarian migration into a punishment for being low income. Critics warn it will separate families, hurt U.S. relations with allied countries, and accuse Trump of using fraud and welfare abuse as an excuse to dramatically shrink legal immigration overall. But the administration's position is simple. If you come to live off of the American taxpayer, you don't get to come to America. And like President Trump said last night, if you steal from America, you never get to live in America. Let me know in the comments, is this too harsh or is this exactly what you voted for? Now, Department of War Secretary Pete Hegseth made an amazing and interesting update today. War Secretary Pete Hegseth dropped a pretty wild update on Trump's war against the drug cartels. He said the Pentagon can't find any more narco boats to sink because no one wants to get into a narco boat, which is the whole point of Trump's blow them up policy. In other words, they've made the job so dangerous that drug smugglers are saying to themselves, no thanks, I'd rather live. Now, that's America first. Hit the cartels so hard on the front end that the drugs never make it to our border or into the bodies of our children. Now, of course, Democrats in Washington, D.C. are furious with Pete Hegseth and President Trump. Senators Mark Warner and Richard Blumenthal have been demanding full video, more briefing, and even hinting that Trump and Hegseth are guilty of war crimes and should be jailed for the rest of their lives. However, the administration says, we're not going to make this stuff public because we're literally fighting a war. Now, their line is that Pete Hegseth has gone too far, that this is more than policy. This is abusive. But I think most people agree that we do not want drugs killing our brothers and sisters, our moms and our dads, or our children and our grandchildren. But let me know in the comments what you think about what Democrats are saying and what President Trump and Pete Hegseth are doing. But in the meantime, let me show you exactly what Secretary of War Hegseth had to say.
For how long have we been talking about going after drugs and the poisoning of the American people? And for the longest time, it was a catch and release program, a law enforcement function, while these narco terrorists and designated terrorist organizations specifically targeted our communities, our kids, and our people in our country. They knew exactly what they were doing. So instead of the catch and release, we let them know if you're going to sail drugs in international waters, we will target your drug boats and we will sink them. There haven't been many boats sunk recently because we can't find boats to sink, because no one wants to get in a narco boat, which is the whole point. Stop sending your drugs to our country and poisoning the American people.
Isn't that amazing? Oh my gosh. Biden dangled a golden carrot. He worked with Maduro to send Venezuelans and gang members into our country in the dark of night. President Trump has said no more and blown these boats to kingdom come. And wouldn't you know it, nobody wants to sail on the open seas with drugs anywhere near America. I love it. That's so awesome. You know, I don't like watching anybody die or be blown up. But if you are going to sail drugs that kill 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 children, I'm sorry. I don't have any problem with you going goodbye so that our nation can be saved. Gold and silver have been one of the best performing assets in the last 18 months. I've been urging my viewers to investigate this as a way to protect and grow your money. I love President Trump, and daily I tell you about what he's doing to make America great again. But I'd be lying if I didn't tell you I have a decent portion of my own money in gold and silver. Why? Because Congress continues to print money with disregard for the American people, disregard for the fact that it waters down our buying power. The truth is they're printing us into a major problem. Well, you can't print gold and silver, and I consider it honest money. With everything happening in the economy, a lot of people are looking for ways to protect the money that they've worked so hard to get. And when it comes to physical gold and silver, choosing the right company matters. Monetary Gold has been in business for 26 years. They've survived multiple market crashes, have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, and built a reputation for listening to their people and doing right by their customers. They don't push the gimmick coins or the special edition. You just go right for the gold and silver so that you can protect your wealth. Now, if you're thinking about physical gold or silver or using an IRA, they are the best. So call Monetary Gold at 800-608-1770. That's 800-608-1770, or go to StephenLovesGold.com. Ask your questions, get real answers. You'll feel the difference immediately. All right, let me know what you guys think about that. Now, one of President Trump's top security advisors explained on the Shawn Ryan Show what the president is doing to keep America safe. This is amazing what was shared on the Shawn Ryan Show. Let me go ahead and play that for you now.
It's been Mexico, cartel, like all this cartel coming out of Mexico. China sending in the precursors to fentanyl to Mexico, to the Mexican cartels. I'm not saying we shouldn't be in Venezuela, but why are we not in Mexico? Because it's been Mexico. Now we're around to Venezuela. Mexico's on our border. We've been talking about.
Well, we're pressuring the hell. I mean,
why aren't we going
the Mexican government sent back several dozen major leaders of cartels that they had refused for years, and definitely under the last administration, they extradited all of them into our court system. That was a huge win from just a few months ago. The Mexican government put 10,000 of their own guardsmen onto their side of our northern border, and they're sending security forces to their southern border, which President Trump had them, worked with them to do his first term. Biden let it go. Now that's back again. I think the bigger piece, and when I was in Congress, I pushed for us to be able to go on offense against these cartels. I tell people this all the time. Back in the 90s, the FBI was running around the world trying to arrest Osama bin Laden. Mm-hmm. And remember that? Mm-hmm. I mean, in Sudan and other places, and al-Qaeda lieutenants, and oftentimes didn't because it wouldn't stand up in court. They viewed it as a law enforcement problem. After 9/11, we saw it squarely for what it is, a national security problem. We have to move in the same direction with these cartels. They are killing Americans. They are attacking our inner cities. They are poisoning more people than we lost in a year, more people than we lost in 10 years of Vietnam. This is a national security threat, and we have to treat it as such. And these cartels aren't like, I don't know, your mafia groups back in the 60s of organized crime. They are armed to the teeth.
They're armies.
They are mini armies, and they control whole swaths of Mexico, and they have a state backer in Venezuela. So that's the kind of the mental shift. The media doesn't want to talk about that this administration has brought. Kristi Noem, Homeland Security, Stephen Miller in the White House, the president, of course, vice president. And that's squarely America first. But I just push back. It's Mexico too. I think Venezuela's getting all the media, but it's Mexico too.
All right. I wanted you guys to hear that. President Trump is fighting a multi-front war in order to keep his campaign promise of making America safe again. Now, going back to the border and criminals and fraud, Democrat Senator John Fetterman just admitted what no other Democrat has the balls to admit about President Trump, the border, these dangerous criminals, Biden and Kamala Harris. Let me show you exactly what was shared with Senator Fetterman earlier today.
As a Democrat, when I arrived in the Senate back in 23, it was very clear to me that we are failing at our border. And if you look at the kinds of things that we've had, this has started to happen now. This is from the New York Times. That's encounters at our border, and it was skyrocketing. And it's like, that's unsustainable. When you reach almost 300,000 people, that's unsustainable. And we need to, as a Democrat, it shouldn't be unreasonable to want to secure our border and do it in that way. And now let's also talk about ICE. Now, absolutely, again, what happened in Minneapolis was absolutely tragic. 67% have criminal charges, pending ones, or that. So that's more than 2/3, of the people. Now there are some people that aren't involved in any kinds of illegal things, but so me, I think two things can be true. Round up all the criminals, deport them. They shouldn't have ever been here, and they definitely have to go. And now I don't want to see more and more things happening in Minneapolis now too. So two things must be true. And I strongly reject the extreme on either side, about this now. So we must be true. And, I watched you earlier in your show. You just pointed out President Obama deported, millions of people, and there wasn't having the same kind of outrage here, here is from Democrats.
All right. Isn't that refreshing to have a Democrat tell us the truth? Thank you, Senator John Fetterman, for doing that. All right. If you found value in these videos, please give this video a like, share it with family members and friends, and hit that subscribe button. We'll see you tomorrow.